My name's Ed Grigg and I've been a tenant here at 4 New Square for about 3 years, which I'm still a bit surprised by saying because it feels like it's been a lot longer than that.
I'm Kelly Hugh. I recently joined Chambers, so I think I've been in practice for about 7 months.
When it came to choosing a Chambers to apply to, the thing that really stood out to me about 4 New Square is that I felt a real connection to 4 New Square. I'd met the barristers. They had come to do a mooting workshop. I subsequently did a mini pupillage. On that mini pupillage, I was working on a case. I went to court with my supervisor at the time. It was a really great experience. And so when it came to applying, for me it was a no-brainer because I just felt I know these barristers.
People don't arrive with us as the fully formed barrister. It takes time, it takes patience, and it takes training, and we're fully invested in doing that because what we want at the end of the year is for the person who we've taken on as a pupil to become a tenant and then to go on and succeed at the bar. So in terms of what you can expect from your pupillage year, we split the pupillage year into 3 seats. The first 2 seats are 3 months in length and the third one is 6 months, although you'll get your tenancy decision about halfway through.
Your first point of contact throughout pupillage is always going to be your supervisor, and they aren't just there to show you how you could have done a task better. They are also there to help you and give you tips and tricks along the way.
I have always wanted to really connect with the very junior members of Chambers, and I think becoming a pupil supervisor is one really good way of getting to know the next generation of members of Chambers and helping them go do that transition from pupil to tenant.
I think that at 4 New Square, one of the good things is that you do get to work on live work. Really getting to work on the same cases as your pupil supervisor. So being able to see their live work, it comes in, you have the papers, and then doing the work together with them, maybe even being able to assist them with some of the pleadings, with some of the skeleton arguments, with some of the written work, and seeing, I guess, the fruits of your labor in court or seeing it in a conference and really feeling like a part of their practice. And I think that really develops nicely onto the kind of work that you'll be doing because soon enough, sort of sooner than you think, you'll be managing your own practice and you'll be talking to clients, you'll be talking to solicitors, and you're doing exactly the same kind of work. And so I think it's very rewarding and challenging as well, being able to get involved at the granular level of working on a case.
The second 6 is obviously completely terrifying for the pupils because they're, for the first time, in a sense, they'll feel solo, but they're not solo.
The transitions from pupillage to tenancy can be quite difficult. I think there's a saying that you first learn to pass your driving test and then you learn to drive. And it's a bit like that becoming a junior tenant. Suddenly you realise there's no instructor with you in the car, it's just you, your own practice, your own cases. There's a thrill to that, but there's also a lot of responsibility.
Because we do have a practicing second 6, I found the transition into being a tenant really quite natural.
One of 4 New Square's really big benefits is that in junior years you go out to court a lot more than people in some other commercial chambers. So in the early years of my practice, I was doing a lot of my own advocacy and really getting under my belt the skills that have served me well in later years. Over the course of the time in between, I specialised a lot more and I focused a lot more on lawyers and accountants' negligence. But by the time I got to do more complicated, high-value trials, I felt that the early period I'd had in Chambers doing a lot of advocacy had really helped me get the skills I needed.
So I still remember my first appearance in court. Over 20 years ago, Edmonton County Court. It was a case worth a few £100s. No great headlines, no reported case came out of that. But it was the day I realised that I could do the job. I could extract the evidence from the witness that I needed. I could put together a logical argument. I could speak on behalf of my client. And so that was one of my most memorable experiences. And I guess that was the starting point. And then fast forward 20 years and to becoming a King's Counsel, and that being a moment to reflect on the 20 years that I'd had. 4 appearances in the Supreme Court, lots of nail-biting, adrenaline-pumped moments of cross-examination, and ultimately a very rewarding career. Having done this for as long as we have, we recognise that there are some gaps in people's knowledge when they arrive with us, and we work hard to try and plug those gaps as quickly as we can by giving additional training on things like statements of case, pleadings, opinion writing. Now, on top of that, you'll also be assessed both by other members of chambers, a few pieces of written work, and also by 2 advocacy assessments which are conducted by judges, either judges who have been members of chambers or who sit part-time and are members of chambers. There's no doubt that those are nerve-wracking experiences, but I think everybody who's been through it and come out the other end is able to acknowledge that whilst they were nerve-wracking experiences, they learnt a lot from having done it.
And then you finally see not the finished product, no one's a finished product, but the finished pupillage product being taken on as a tenant. That's the kind of golden pat on the back.
Finding a work-life balance as a pupil and also, frankly, as a junior tenant is one of the great challenges of this job. And I would say that it's a science and an art, and you don't always get the balance right. Sometimes in pupillage, you're going to be busy and work is going to stray into the evenings. And that may be difficult at the time, but it also can be quite exciting. I mean, the period of time in pupillage when I worked the hardest was actually when I was working very closely with my supervisor on a case. And my supervisor was also working very hard. And I wanted to put in those hours, and I felt very close to the detail of the case, and it was thrilling.
It is demanding. It's demanding as a job, and it's demanding when you're a pupil, and I don't shy away from that. This is not an easy year for people. I'm well aware of that. It is a difficult year, it's challenging, it's stressful, but hopefully also it can be enjoyable, and you have moments when you think, goodness me, I can do this, and that's very rewarding.
But in terms of pupillage, one of the things that I've always made very clear to my pupils is that I want to see them at their best. It's not about them pulling all-nighters, it's not about them showing me that they can stay late, because frankly that's not impressive in itself. Anyone can stay late, it's whether you can produce excellent work. So they don't have to come in early, they don't have to stay late, and I'd much rather, when I'm having a chat with them, I'd much rather hear that they've had a lovely weekend and that they're going to see their friends that evening than they're taking home some work and that they're all really stressed about it, because it just doesn't create a good culture and it doesn't create good work.
Over the years we've learnt to try and help people manage that the best way we can. Most straightforwardly, it's having guidelines about working hours. We don't want people working outside those working hours, because we want them to give the best that they can, but do so within those hours. The second thing is we try and pace the year, the pupillage year, so there's more training at the beginning of the year, and then the assessments and the advocacy assessments are spaced out during the year. We don't want to overload people at any particular moment in time.
There's definitely also a social side to chambers, so even during pupillage, you would be encouraged to attend marketing events, be able to listen to talks from other members of chambers, but also more general social events. So we have tea and cake every week, you get to meet senior members of chambers, and also Pilates. So we do Pilates every week.
So from day one, pupils are part of chambers, and that means that they're invited to all of chambers events, be that chambers breakfasts, cake in the afternoon occasionally, and chambers social and marketing events. We want them to be part of chambers because ultimately we do want them to become part of chambers.
Lots of places talk about an open door culture. I mean, in 4 New Square, people's doors are actually open because members who are in prop them open, and they're there if you want to just pop your head round, whether it's to say hello and catch up or discuss a particular point that's on your mind.
I think the key thing to bear in mind about a year of pupillage at 4 New Square is you will always know where you stand. That is very important to me as head of pupillage, and I know to the others on the pupillage committee. You'll get regular feedback from your supervisor about the work that you're doing, and you'll have a meeting with me and with the senior clerk halfway through and at the end of each of your seats, where we will assess how you're doing, what we can do to help you as you're going on, and what you should be aiming to improve on as you go forward.
I think that the thing that I would tell my younger self is not to work less hard, but to relax. I think it's very easy to get very tense because it all builds. The pressure of pupillage is much more a self-imposed one than it is by the pupillage committee or anyone else. Everyone is just trying to see you at your best. And I'm definitely at my best when I'm relaxed.